Hello and welcome, you crazy people. My name is Jay, and today we're going to talk about an article that Atomic Mass Games have put up on their website talking about bringing narrative play to the Star Wars games. Now, I might title this something like, "Is competitive play dead?" The answer to that is no. If I have done that, then I was just like vibing, clickbaiting, vibing. So yeah, like I don't think competitive play is dead. There might be some stuff in here that competitive players won't be happy with, eventually. But really, bringing narrative play is fine because they do talk about how they're going to also have like the same kind of events that these games were used to, i.e., competitive games. At least that's what we can read into that. Anyway, so let's look at the article. I'll stop rambling and we'll look at the article. So this was posted, I think, last night. The fact that they've posted this at all is interesting because I personally feel like it might be a little bit premature. It's sort of like a signal of intent. Anyway, let's read it. So they're bringing, all you need to know is that they're bringing highly focused narrative events to like these games, which is interesting for the Star Wars games because they spread different time spans. So how do you have a focused narrative where they spread different time spans? Maybe you have to just do it like a long-term story. I don't know. That's not for me to help with. That's not my job, so that's fine. Yeah, so they're bringing narrative events to it. I don't know how they will work, but they want them to be at a store level. So this is important, an in-store level where community games like these thrive, right? Okay. Now they do say we're looking to apply this organized play philosophy to Star Wars miniatures games while continuing the events of these games have enjoyed throughout their time under the watch of Fantasy Flight Games. Now I tweeted at Atomic Mass Games last night, and I said, "Yo," I didn't say yo, but I could have done. "Yo, are we going to have any reduction in competitive events? Like, can you confirm there'll be no reduction?" Now, obviously, 2020 has not been a high year for competitive organized play for any game, but we know what we mean. We know what we mean. It's like store championship, and then like regional, well, maybe like regionals and nationals, Europeans, etc. Those kind of things, right? Will there be a reduction? They didn't reply. Can't blame them, but they didn't reply. But I asked that question. So what might this actually mean, right? So for me, as a sort of bad competitive player, what I worry about is the number of events, right? Because in the local area that I have, we do get some events at Element Games, but we don't get we're not getting 30-man tournaments every month. So what I worry about personally is that maybe we will see something like a reduction in, well, the same number of events, but the store competitive events will now maybe not all be the competitive events. Maybe some of them will be the narrative, which to me is a net reduction in the events that I want to see. Because I don't think we don't necessarily have the community and the number of players to do that. Just where I am, obviously, it's possibly different. I know, like the northeast of the US, I think it's booming or whatever, but well, it was booming. But yeah, like if I'm running, if a competitive, I think it's all about the store level, right? The nationals are probably going to remain the same. Europeans will remain the same. World Championships will remain the same. I think even for Marvel Crisis Protocol, they have that kind of system. But it looks like the store events, for me, either they're going to double the store events, or some store events are going to run one of. So they're only going to do a narrative, or they're only going to do a competitive. If they do both, man, I'd be happy because it means like Element Games, they might run 2 events a year or 2 events every 6 months. That'd be fine. I'm happily playing the narrative events. Don't get me wrong. I just don't want to see personally a reduction of the competitive events. I do think, because I think the stuff where they all falls under the umbrella of organized play, but the stuff where it's like you can run a league in a month or weekly league or something like that. That probably could do with a bit of an improvement, I guess. Anyway, if that goes to like narrative play, I don't think anybody's particularly too bothered about that. But for me, I don't necessarily want to see a change of stores having like, are they called primes or whatever they're called, and then a nationals, and then a Europeans, and then a world. Like, I want that to sort of remain the same. If they say stores, actually now you can get 2 kits, but it's left up to the stores, which obviously possible, then the store will decide. And if the narrative one is more popular, which I think most of the people, I did like a poll once, most of you are, I mean casual in a nice sense, like I'm As I said, I'm not using that as a derogatory term, and I don't think competitive play should be used in a derogatory term either. Everybody's lovely as far as I'm concerned, but you know, if there's more of the narrative players, then of course they're going to get focused more. Now, I have no qualms with that either. I just don't want to see the reduction in competitive play. I personally, I'm not that interested in the narrative. I'll go because I'll just go to meet people and talk to people and stuff like that. I'm not going to like stress and try and win. It's not really relevant. Like, not at a narrative event. Like, not, at a competitive event, what I want to do is go, try my hardest, be as friendly as I can, and just see what happens. Like, I'm not trying to win. I just want to get like in the top half. So there's a few different things like, I think competitive players do get a derogatory term, and I do think competitive players underestimate the number of non-competitive players. So I do think that this is actually a good thing, especially if it gets more people into the game. I do sort of think though that one of the key differentiating factors between Games Workshop and what were Fantasy Flight Games was that Fantasy Flight Games concentrated or seemed to do a better job in the competitive realm now. Games Workshop are doing better in this. In 40k, they hired the guy who was doing all the tournament packs and stuff like that. I think the LVO tournament guy, he was doing mission packs and all that kind of stuff, and they hired him. And they did quite a decent job on Warhammer Underworlds. Their website's pretty good. So Games Workshop are playing catch up. FFG still had a distinction of being sort of like the better competitive games. I still think like Legion is a better competitive game than 40k and stuff like that. You can argue with me if you like, but it doesn't matter. It's just an opinion. So the fact that Atomic Mass Games may be diluting that a little bit is fine, as long as they keep the competitive stuff. But if they do dilute it too much, you lose like a little bit of a unique selling point. Now, you do that with the risk of, well, it's the risk of losing the competitive players who are your intense players who keep the game. Like, these are other people who are playing in Tabletop Simulator all the time and playing millions of games a week and stuff like that. Lunatics, I tell you. No, it's fine. If you run the risk of losing your hardcore players, fine. But you run the reward. What's the opposite of risk? The benefit of gaining lots of new players. So it's a completely sensible thing to do, but the fact that you had like a unique selling point against one of your biggest competitors was probably a good thing. We'll see how it goes. We obviously have no idea. Now, why are they putting this out now? They didn't need to do this. They did not need to do this. I mean, maybe they did, because people were like, "Will we still get this?" Okay, I take it back. They did need to do this, right? But they could have just said, "We're committed to bringing the same kind of organized play that you've always had." But they've not said that. They've said, "We're going to do narrative and probably some of what you got," because it says the type of events. It doesn't say all of the events, so probably some of the events. So they know people were asking because of Marvel Crisis Protocol. They say, "Hey, you're only doing narrative events there." Well, mainly they do like big events at conventions and stuff, or they were planning on doing it before Corona. What are you going to do for all the FFG Star Wars games? And they're like, "Well, yep, we're going to do narrative. Balls to it. We're going to do narrative. Oh, we're going to still do competitive though, so don't worry." Well, we'll have to wait and see how much they deliver on that. I'm mildly concerned in the sense that, yeah, I'm sure there's been the organized play kits for Marvel Crisis Protocol. I'm sure that's fine, but I don't think there were necessarily any like regional championships or worlds. And I'm sure the people at Atomic Mass Games obviously have history in the industry and that kind of stuff, so they'll have experience. But Atomic Mass Games don't really have that experience of running a Europeans, a Nationals, a Worlds, and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully they'll just lean on Asmodee to actually, get that if they need any help. But I'm pretty sure they're probably all right. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I just worry that they're losing a bit of something that makes them unique. The Star Wars games, they have like decent competitive play, and but they might gain a new audience by doing that. But we'll see. And we might still have all the same competitive games that we always had, so it's not really a problem. Like, I feel like I've come across really like down about it, but really I'm actually not that bad. I think it's probably a good thing. I think Marvel Crisis Protocol's lack of competitive focus is a good thing for a lot of people, but I do think there is I don't feel like, let's face it, right? The Star Wars games, as for especially X-Wing and Legion, feel like they were catered for, like they were almost aimed at the competitive player at first. You know, the mechanics and stuff like that, and the way that the systems are built. So it's now if you're going to take that focus away, the people who were like the target of that focus might be like, what? But I really do feel like there's room for everybody, so I don't want to seem like I'm completely grumpy about it or anything like that. It's just in the morning before I start work, so obviously I'm not the happiest bunny in the world. But yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think it's probably for the best. I don't think you can really have a game that is just a competitive game and have it survive forever, like we saw Guild Ball and stuff like that end up not going anywhere because it was probably too much in the competitive sphere. You need everybody, or you want everybody as well. Like you want some, extremists, competitive players, and you want people who are literally just telling stories with each other, and somewhere in between when we can run the gambit of events which are like, fully casual narrative store championships and stuff like that. My only worry is that you end up with a situation where, like my local stores, or the stores that are within drivable distance, like up to 3 hours probably, although I did once drive like 4.5 hours in the morning and drive back. What you want is a situation where we're doubling the events, right? Like if the competitive events decrease a little bit, the people who play the competitive not going to be happy. So you sort of want competitive games to be here as we have them now, and you want the narrative to come up. Now, as I said, we can't compare against 2020 because that's insane. So, we'll have to wait and see. And then, if you've got your competitive games and you're bringing your narrative up, what if the stores and the scene can't support that? What if what actually happens is instead of this, you get and it all comes down to like a middle. I mean, that might not be great for the competitive players, fine for the narrative players. So there's a bit of a concern, but it's not a concern that I think most of you will care about, because I think most of you probably aren't a competitive player. And if you are a competitive player, then I think we just have to wait and see. They said they're going to continue the types of events, so it's speculation for me to say that there might be a reduction. It's speculation for me to say that in your area you might see that maybe they can't support both the number of events. So we'll have to wait and see what they actually do. For sure, I think they'll have like the weekly tournament, weekly event thing that they do, leagues and all that kind of stuff will definitely go to a more narrative focus. They will definitely, I think they're going to have like a narrative tournament, probably. But hopefully that's not at the expense of like the store primes. We'll have to wait and see. It's too early. I'm just having a bit of a ramble. But yeah, I just worry that you'll lose the focus. One thing that made the game stand out from Games Workshop in that it was you're attempting to properly balance it and you're doing all the right things. And yeah, it might be a reduction for the competitive players. We'll have to wait and see. As I said, I've rambled very, very long. I'm trying to wear my merch, but unfortunately, because it's on this side, you can't see because of the mic. So check out my Terrain channel, Terrain Made Easy. Anyway, I've got to start work. Have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.